זה בעיה. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll have something better for tomorrow.
I didn't buy them, but they're great.
Oh, I was here. I was worried about you that you might not find it. You're not familiar.
I'd like you to take a poll now, Eli.
Yes.
I'd like you to take a poll and ask who prefers this seating arrangement and who prefers the other seating arrangement.
The other place is much better.
Conference room is much better. I think so.
It's a little crooked, it looks like, and you better not move back. It's gonna have to yell. Don't move, don't move. Okay. Now we had a question in the new building. Do we do a long table like we have, and then tables on the side, or we do it like this?
Long table.
Okay. It's much more. It's cozier the other way. Okay, fine. You win. We also have a poll. Who should sit next to me on the right side? That's another. Is it Nachman? What are you smiling? No. Joking. It's a joke. These things we don't joke. It's a given. All right, Itmar. Shkoyach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu shakon yeh b'dvaroi.
No water from today. Take it away.
I don't understand what's going on with Slichas. Why are there people here? Do we have a minyan for after this year? Do we have it? Yeah, Shachar. Do we have a minyan? Everybody davened before already? Okay. Raise your hands if you haven't davened. Only 5 people? 6, 7, 6?
I have my tefillin at home.
So we have a pair of tefillin here. Gary davened already? Unfortunately? Okay. And you're 7, 8. We're gonna have 9 people, Rabbi Isai, and we're all gonna walk together to the next to Chaniche. Oh, Itmar. We're holding the Vav Amud Beis. The Vav Amud Beis by the 4 or 5 lines from the bottom. Itmar. Yesterday we learned that even if a piece of meat goes outside of the Azara and you perform the Zrika inside the Azara, that piece of meat is possible, but the Zrika, according to Rebbe Kiva, has an effect on that piece of meat that's outside. What kind of effect does it have? How did you guys learn? It affects it to what point? That there's no Meilah, and what? I could eat that piece of meat now. Was shechted properly and everything. Could I eat it?
No. It's a pickle.
Okay, it's no good. Right. So what do you do with it?
Burn it.
That's the last word we're going to learn today, Be'ezer Hashem. Hopefully we get there. It only works if the Zrika has an effect inside the Beis HaMikdash. And if it has an effect inside the Beis HaMikdash, it's like a migui. Migui that has an effect, it took effect on something, it's a good Zrika, then, what's that? It's like a high-pitched sound. If you're old, don't hear it. Avayoyte kuloi lo yomer Rebbe Kiva. Avayoyte kuloi lo yomer Rebbe Kiva. Right? It makes sense. It's a good svara. If the entire animal went outside and the zrika didn't take effect at all on something kosher, I don't even know why we're building anything. We just be here every day.
Internet warning. The alarm.
It's like base tefillah when you play the music loud, the electric goes off. If you use your internet, you get this high-pitched sound. Okay, fine, so that's it. There's a great svara that if it takes effect on a little bit, on part of it, some of it, inside the Hazara, it'll take effect on the outside the Hazara. Now, there's 2 ways to learn this sugya. Either it's a question on what we just said, or it has nothing to do, it's a continuation. I was taught Mechashvin ala avud va'al hasaruf. So, the way the Gemara understands initially, and obviously the Gemara is going to go away from it, but the Gemara understands that I could have a machshava on pigul. I could say to myself, this piece of meat is, I'm thinking to myself in my head, I am going to eat that piece of meat that's inside the dog's stomach. I gave a piece of meat to the dog. It's avod, not avod lost, but avod destroyed. The piece of meat is completely destroyed. Or I threw a piece of meat into the oven, it's already burnt. I could have a machshav on that piece of meat, I'm going to eat it tomorrow. Meaning, l'chayra, I mean, even to understand this have a meaning, you have to understand a little bit. He didn't know that it's burnt. If he knew that it's burnt, then he's a shoita. He's saying, mamish, his machshav is a machshav shtus. You can't think that something that doesn't exist in the world, you're going to eat it tomorrow. Well, he thought that it's around. He didn't realize a dog came around to the Beis Hamikdash and grabbed it and ate it. But it happens to be destroyed. The way the Gemara understands it, that I could have my machshava of pigul works even on that. Now, if you want to say it's a question, so you'll say, okay, so the Gemara understood that even if all the meat is destroyed, all the meat is saruf, I could still create a pigul. So then why does Rabbi Yochanan say that you cannot create pigul only if part of it is left over in the Beis Hamikdash? V'avod v'saruf loy asinum ba'ilo. It's not around. How can you do pigul on something that's not around? According to Rabbi Yochanan, you need something there. Nevertheless, it still says I could create pigul. Umi Omar Rabasi Hachi. Did Rabasi really say this? V'ba'oy minei Rabasi Rabbi Yochanan.
That's Meilah Kash and Rebbe,
That's why I said it could go both ways. You could either say that, wait a minute, who said that that there's mechashav ala avad? Maybe some of it was left over. But if you want to say it's a kash on Rabbi Yochanan, that's how you're going to have to learn that it seems like all of it is gone and you can still do pigul.
a little is there.
Right.
Just says across the board.
You missed the first day. Seriously, I'm going in the entire Masechtas Meilah. I'm not going with Rashi because it's not Rashi. It's the Mefarish. Tosfos is the Mefarish here in the Masechta. Now that's what I told you. No, so the Mesifta goes with Rashi. Basically, the Arshva goes with Tosfos.
I thought Mesifta goes to Tosfos.
No, Arshva goes with Tosfos. Anyways, that's.
Oh, yeah.
They learn everything differently. The whole Masechta is a mess. It's like it's hard. So I
say something.
especially what you said yesterday, I was right at the end of the day. That B'zach is there. We're going to see in a second. I'm right. You're going to go to Rashi. Everything you're going to tell me now, that's Rashi. Right. I entice until you look entice. I'm going to be weiter. Says the Gemara, it's a great shiloh over here. A person had blood in his kli, and then some of it fell on the floor. Now the halacha is I could gather it off the floor and use it for my zrika. But instead, I thought to myself that I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this blood on the floor. I'm going to use it for tomorrow's zrika, which is also it's pigul. Thinking in your mind that you're going to do zrika tomorrow is also. But I still have this blood in this cup that I used for zrika. So what status does this blood on the floor have? It's nishpachim. Unbelievable halacha. So now we're going to be talking about the concept of something that goes to waste. Alol is a sinew in the neck. Tosfos says it's gid shabatzavar. This gid doesn't have a lot of mamashas. It's not very substantial. It's not something that you typically eat. Most people just toss it away. You could eat it if you feel like it, but you don't. 99.9% of the people don't eat it. And in Meilah, if I have a machshav of pigul on this gid, it's not pigul. Because it's we consider it gone. It's avad. It's finished. So this blood on the floor, since I'm going to throw it away, it's going to waste anyways. So my pigul doesn't apply to that blood on the floor. And also you have to stick in here another knetch a little bit. There's no mitzvah to pick up the blood. If there was a mitzvah to pick up the blood, then I would have a problem. Then it's not avad. But since I don't have a mitzvah to pick it up, and I have leftover blood in my cup, which I'm going to use anyways for another zrika, so the blood on the floor is garbage. My pigul doesn't attach itself to that garbage, to that avod. But what?
It's not an edible item.
It's edible. It's edible, but nobody eats it. Edible meaning you eat it. You could eat a sinew. Dogs would eat it. It's edible, but you don't eat it. Typically, you don't eat it. Almo hay olol kivin de lesbe mishasha. It's not very substantial. Lo kibel tuma. You have to stick in here. Lo imehane machshava. It doesn't work to have pigul, right? Again, there's a gishoyis issues here. It's better to read it like mahani machshava. Hani nishpachim nami. So the blood also, kiv and the libud azli, since it's going anyways to waste, machshava limahanyo, whatever the gear says. Limahanyo b'machshava. Now, that's great for this. Elodiktoni ala ovod vala soruf kashya. But what do we do with the first part? He says that you could have a machshava of pigul on something that's wasted. Something that's in the stomach of a dog, of something that's completely burned. So how does it go together with the blood that we just sent to waste? You can't have a machshava of pigul. Which one is it? Omar Rava, Eimel ala oimed liibod v'ala oimed lisareif. So Rava says the first line of this amud, when it says ala ovid v'ala sareif, doesn't mean that it already went into the dog's stomach. It means that he tossed it to the dog. The dog is about to eat it. Since he's about to eat it, my pigul is chal on it. Since it's about to go into the oven, I just toss it into the oven, but I could pull it out of the oven and eat it. So Meilah, there's this pigul on it. No, so then, but the lemaisa, the question remains. We still have to address this. This is what they talk about. But blood, you just said, you can't do pigul. So what's the difference between blood and a piece of meat that you toss to a dog that's about to be avod? So they say the answer is because blood, since there's no mitzvah to pick it up, so it's avod. It's already garbage. But meat, there's a mitzvah to take it away from the dog. You're supposed to take it away from the dog. So Meilah, we don't consider it avod yet. And that's why the pigul is chal on it. Omer Papa.
You might have to pick it up. You definitely do things like Adam or Zerika, so you do need the blood.
No, that's why I said you already have blood in the cup. You have more blood in the cup. Half the cup spilled out, half the cup is left. So you let it go. You could let it go. Omer Papa, Omer Rebbe Kiva Zrika, Moyeles La Yoitze, Ella Shiyotza Basar.
That's our case on Mishnah.
Right? But what is the case? He's defining the case and he's saying that where Rebbe Kiva said that Zrika works for something, for a piece of meat that went out of the Beis HaMikdash, it's only meat. Aval dam in Zrika Moyeles La Yoitze. Listen to this. If blood went outside of the Azara and then you brought it into the Azara and try to do a Zrika with it, that's not going to work. Why? Because it's not a good Zrika. It's kind of obvious, no? If the blood went outside of the Beis HaMikdash, then you try to bring it inside the Beis HaMikdash and do Zrika with it, you're not performing a proper Zrika because it's Yaitza blood. But if the piece of meat went outside of the Beis HaMikdash and it's puzzle, and I have a proper Zrika inside the Beis HaMikdash, so my proper Zrika removes the Meilah from that piece of meat outside. Avodah means Zrika Moyeles La Yoitze. Time in Name Hachi, Shochat.
Why are you saying it like that? That if you bring the dam back...
That's how Taisus learns.
No.
No?
If I'm trying to compare...
What are you reading? You're reading straight out of your Mesifta and it doesn't jive?
No, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
When you say you do a Zrika on dam,
Yeah.
it should be Moyel...
So what do you want to use the dam for? To drink? What do you want to use the dam for? What are you doing?
Give it to my plants as fertilizer. What's the difference?
No, you can't use that. That's,
Why not?
you're talking about me.
If I'm drawing the comparison, then that was the comparison. I know, it's comparing the dam to like saying it works for the bus or it doesn't work for dam. He said it doesn't work for dam, that if you bring it back in and you throw it, then it's not going to be a good Rico. That's obvious. That's not the comparison.
Who's comparing? Who's comparing?
He is. That's Papa.
You're saying it's one for one.
Right. About dam, and you can also use it.
Not comparing it, they're just saying.
I don't know that it's true. That's why. I don't know that what you're saying is true. Meheicha Teisa, you can't use the blood. Why? No, why can't you use the blood? Who said what you're saying is true? Why can't I use the blood? It's good. Maybe I could use it for my plants. Why not? You're just saying it's exerts a cause of the blood, not. That doesn't make sense. Everything, what is he saying?
Yeah, okay. You say you can't use that blood to bring in and do a Zrika to pater the basa.
To do anything. It doesn't work for the Zrika. To pater anything. The basar outside or the basar inside. What's the difference? Any basar. You can't use that blood outside as your Zrika blood. But you probably could use it for plants. If he didn't have a machshavas pigul and then the blood went outside. Even though here, this is where it comes from. Even though he came inside, that blood that went outside. B'kachi kachim Meilah boy. Kachi kachim that are the Isra Isra Meilah, the Isra Meilah remains forever. B'kachim kalim a Meilah boy, and kachim kalim that have no Isra Meilah up until Zrika. The Zrika it doesn't count, and therefore there's no Meilah on the Imurim afterwards. Omer Rebbe Kiva, so we had in the Mishnah, Rebbe Kiva brought a raya from somebody who brought 2 chatais, and the Gemara now is going to go into a little bit greater length. Omar Rebbe Lazar, in the new place, there's going to be a special section for those who had the surgery and can't stand under. Ki Omar Rebbe Kiva Vasachas, it's going to be a smart air conditioner system. No, they have that already. Yeah, with lasers, they know your body temperature. V'chulu v'chulu. Yeah, exactly. Each person underneath the table will have their own. Omar Rebbe Lazar, ki Omar Rebbe Kiva Vasachas. So what happened? Rebbe Kiva says, if a person brings a chatos, and then he decides to bring another chatos for the same avera because his first chatos got lost, for instance, and then he found the first one, so now he has 2 chatos, and then he shechted them bivasachas. What does bivasachas mean? So Tosfos starts saying, maybe it means that he shechted it with a long knife. And he says that it probably means that he shechted it one after another, but they didn't perform zrika yet. Now if you look in the Shita Mikubetzes, he says, Givaldik, you can't say that it's talking about that he shechted it with a long knife. That's a problem. Judah. Be careful of the vibration there. Akopanim, sorry. So, later on I get complaints. I got a complaint that somebody was using his phone behind me during the share. Anyways, hi. Right? So a long knife would not work, the Shita points out. Because in Zvachim we learned that bevasachas and 2 karbanos is not very good. So maybe 2 kohanim, right, 2 kohanim bevasachas maybe. Akopanim.
That's Rashi, not what I meant.
What?
That's Rashi, you can't mention Rashi.
It's not Rashi. It's Mefarish. No, it's not Rashi. Why are you saying Rashi? No, it's not Rashi. That's Pasha. Okay, you missed out. Look at the Agdama to the Masechta. You'll see.
I know.
The Masechta calls him Rashi. I know. Once in a while he calls him Rashi.
When you learn, the Mefarish on the right is Rashi.
Correct.
Even when it's Rabbeinu Gershom and Rashbam.
Rav Shomer said in Moed Gezach yesterday, the reason why Tosfos is so long is not because Punkt Tosfos decided to write more in Meilah. It's because they realized that there's no Rashi, so they went and they looked for the Tosfos that's Mefarish the Daf. That's his pshat.
I looked it up. The Tosfos we have on Meilah is from Rabbeinu Beretz.
Yeah. They picked that. Baal Tosfos that has more Pirushim. So it's not exactly like you said. Okay, fine.
Nobody have Tosfos close.
So once you looked it up, is the one on the right Rashi or the Mefarish? No, nobody knows who it is. It's a Rishon. It's for sure a Rishon, but it's not a. It's an anonymous Rishon.
Tosfos Rabbeinu Beretz.
Okay. Tosfos Rabbeinu Beretz. Akopanim. Tosfos points out that b'zeacher zeh.
Just as a comment,
Yeah.
he says that the Rav Minyan and Binyan Acharim Kinu, Pirush Rashi.
Kinu. Yeah, the Mekan. It's a nickname. Akopanim. Fine. So Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos yesterday. Mefarish and Tosfos. So what's Vasachas? I'm learning, but Vasachas, I'm going back to the way I learned yesterday. Vasachas means as long as there's no Zrika on the second one. If you have the 2 bloods, even if it's one after another, it happened 2 hours apart, it doesn't have to be shechted mamish the same second. As long as there's no Zrika yet, and you can perform Zrika on any one you want, as we're going to see later in the Gemara, it's mamish muchach like that. Rabbi Kiva said his halacha that if they're both available, then it makes sense that one blood could be mechaper and have an effect on the other animal, which is an amazing chiddush. You have 2 animals unrelated. I do zrika on one from the blood of one animal. It has an effect on the second animal to remove the Meilah. Unbelievable chiddush. However, if I did zrika obviously on behema A, and then I shechted behema B, of course it doesn't have an effect on behema B. B'zachazeh lo yomer Rabbi Kiva. Tanya yomer Rabbi Shimon. Kisholachti lekfar pani matzati zokin echad v'amerli. I bumped into a zokin. Oy my Rabbi Kiva zriko me'elas liyotzei. Did Rabbi Kiva really say that this works? Amarti lo yehein. Yeah, it indeed works. Ukshebasi v'rtzeisi dvar lefnei chaver shebegalil. See, Tosfos also has another girsa here that the zokin is the one that said Amar li, not Amru li. Haloi pasalhu. In other words, the Zaken asked him, or his friends asked him, the question remains the same. The question is, who said it? The question, how is it possible? The meat that went outside of the Beis HaMikdash is already pasul. How could Zrika inside the Beis HaMikdash help the meat that went outside? Heich meratz ala pasul. Ukishiyotzasi v'rtzeisi dvarim l'fnei Rebbe Kiva. So ask Rebbe Kiva, Omar li b'ni, my son, yeah, what? You don't understand on your own that's the halacha v'arei. And this is our Mishnah, just a little bit more elaborate here. It's more mefurish. V'arei mafresh chatasoi v'avda. If I set aside a chatas and it gets lost, v'ifresh acheres tachteh, and I bring a second one, and then I find the original v'arei shtei ma'imdois, and now I have both of them. What does shtei ma'imdois mean? I have the blood of both of them in my hand. I can do whatever I want. Meilah b'shteyen. There's Meilah up until that point. Shchatan v'aridam munach b'koisoi. Sorry, this is what it means. Shchatan v'aridam munach b'koisoi. Now I have the blood of both of them. Meilah b'shteyen.
Beginning is talking about still alive.
Yeah, still alive. And then afterwards I shechted, and now I have the blood in front of me. There's still Meilah. Nizrak dam shalachamem. Now we turn the page. Daf Zayin Amud Beis. If I perform zrika from one of the two bloods, just like it has an effect on its own meat, and it removes the Meilah, so that should have an effect on its friend. So if carbon A, the blood of A, has an effect on the meat of B, even though B is pasul because it's chatashik kipru ba'aleh dinu shiyatzil b'sara. So certainly, so certainly it should have an effect on this meat that went outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Omar, what? Why? I like when you sit up front there. I'm going to get used to this. Yeah? So what?
See that, what does that have to do with you? When you didn't know which animal is the kosher one, which one is the possible one, because you had two chatzot.
Yeah.
Once you do zrika on one, so it turns out that the other one was the possible one. It's not that it really has an effect. It's not that your zrika is having an effect on the other animal.
But it has an... No. Why is it matter? Explain to me how the Meilah... But how did the Meilah go away from the other animal? How did it go away?
It turns out that it's not a carbon. You're not using it anymore. You had two chatos, you only have to be makar of one.
Yeah.
Once you were makar of one, it turns out that the other one is garbage.
No. There's still Meilah. No.
It has a din.
Yeah, it still has a din car. It still has a...
But it's not the zrika that did it. It's not that my zrika had an effect on the other animal. It's just that the other animal turns out to be.
So, okay, so first of all, let's see. The Gemara now is going to go into the svara how it works. Let's see, but it doesn't. I don't think what you're saying can happen. It's not that we'll see. I think I'm going to touch what you're talking about.
It happens at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's possible already. It happens at the same time.
And simultaneously, we decide this one is my chatas, that one is not, right? But how is the Meilah removed from the? That's what he's saying. That once I decide that this is my chatas, then that one is not my chatas anymore. But where did the Meilah go to? It had a kedusha. It was a chatas. It didn't. It's not retroactively not a chatas. It's chatas shekibru ba'aleh. I don't think that's true. Let's see inside. Amar Rish Lakish. So now Rish Lakish understands this svara differently than you. Rish Lakish understands the svara as if the two animals are one. Since they're both coming to be mechaper, I'll just say it doesn't say this, but this is the svara. Since they're both coming to be mechaper for the same aveira, so they have halacha as one guf, as mamish one guf. So if it's one guf, I can be mechaper from one to the other. That makes sense. Move the Meilah through the blood of the other one. Amr Shlakish Mishum Rav Yishaya. Shuva Gnuva Hishiva Rebbe Kiva Loisei Talmud. Rabbi Akiva is a little sneaky, but we have to understand this. Tosfos points out. Rabbi Shaya agrees to Rabbi Akiva. Rish Lakish, Rabbi Shaya, they agree in concept that Rabbi Akiva is right. It's a great kavachomer. They just don't appreciate the lashon, the one sentence that he says that is bevasachas. That's it. Other than that, they agree to Rabbi Akiva. The whole thing is good, but they're just analyzing the word of bevasachas. It's genuva, it's concealed, it's hidden. He chapped in something that shouldn't have been. Shuva genuva yeshiva Akiva lo yisit bevasachasin. It says that the dam is in the koisos, both of them, it's together. It seems like if it's one after the other, if I shachted one, did the zrika, then I shachted the other. No. Bekiv in the puzzle who lama bevasachas, ma bevasachas. So Rish Lakish asks, at the end of the day, if it's one guf, if it's one entity, so what do I care that part of it became puzzle? My zrika should have an effect on it regardless if it happened together or bezachaza. Omar lei Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. No, that can't be the pshat. The pshat is not that it's one guf. Pshat is a little different. Now he's going to do two things here. He's talking about a kolchkein. He's bringing a lesser case so that you could figure out in your head even the larger case. He's bringing a shamois, but certainly a chatos. Okay, so a shamois is lav dafka asham. It means even in our case of chatos. Our case. It could be achrayus, or one got lost and he brought a second asham. V'shachad eshnayim, and he shechted both of them. And then he went ahead and he did something, he made a boo-boo. He put the emurim, the meat of one of the shamais, on the mizbeach before zrika. Don't you agree that you have to remove that meat? Now I just want to pause here for a second to explain a little better. The Chazon Ish sticks in a beautiful vart here. He says that this machloikus of alu yerdu, not yerdu, is in zvachim, where the blood of the carbon spilled. Before you were able to do zrika, there's no blood anymore. It's on the floor. So he put the basar on the mizbeach. Says Reb Shimon, lo yerdu. It can remain on the mizbeach. Says the Chazon Ish, but over here it's different. Over here, even Reb Shimon would say, im alu yerdu. Why? Because over there it's a good carbon. I'm bringing the Chazon Ish because I think it's a beautiful svar to understand the sugya. Over there, you have a carbon that has no blood, but it's a carbon. So Meilah, it's a carbon that's puzzle. It's a good carbon. So I put the meat on. Says Reb Shimon, don't take it off. The carbon puzzle. But over here, it's not a carbon at all. When I have two hashamas, and I find out I shechted asham A instead of asham B, so what happened? Asham B is not a carbon at all. That's what Reuven was saying. Asham B turns out that it didn't come for kapara avera. They both come for the same avera. Only one could give me a kapara my avera. So two is not even a carbon. Doesn't even start being a carbon. So Meilah, everybody would agree here. Shim alu yerdu. I'm just trying to explain where maybe alu lo yerdu. No, everybody, even Reb Shimon in Zvachim will hold over here alu yerdu, because it turns out that the meat that you put on the mizbeach had no connection to the mizbeach. You put chulat on the mizbeach. Because what happened? You put the meat of carbon A on the mizbeach, and you did zrika with the blood of carbon B. So could I the chad gufu ask Rabbi Yochanan, but you Rish Lakish say that A and B are one entity, it's one guf. Amayim alu yerdu. Ha'marula emuri kachim kalim shehelon. Again, he's going with the kachim kalim is lav dafka. It's to tell me kolchkein kachim. Why? I'll explain in a second. Even kachim kalim, which are kachim kalim are not that kaddish. And if you put it on the mizbeach, Shalom Lefnei Zrikas Dam Lo Yerdu. So Kolchkim by us in our Sugya, but Kachim, which they have Meilah already. There's Issa Meilah. Why? Because it's so Kadosh, the closer to the Mizbeach than Kachim Kalim. Certainly, Lo Yerdu. What happened? You put the Kachim Kalim, Shalom Lefnei Zrikas Dam, you put them on the Mizbeach before you perform Zrika. Lo Yerdu. Why? Nasan Lach Mishim Mizbeach. Because the Kachim Kalim become the bread of the Mizbeach. So kachim, which are already bread beforehand, they're already Hashem's bread, then certainly they should remain on the Mizbeach. Ishtik. Rish Lakish had nothing to answer. You're right. If it's my svara that it's one guf, then we have a major problem. Why would the meat of a asham come off the Mizbeach if it's one guf? Or Rabbi Yochanan, a beautiful lashon that you don't find in Shas, usually, Kitzatz-tirun l'raguka. I chopped off that youngster's feet. Referring to Rish Lakish. Fine. Zok the Mishnah. Oh. Givaldik. You heard? Nachamal, say it aloud.
Meilah had to have been B'vas Achas, so B'echel is din. And a potter is the other basar.
Very good. Zok the Mishnah. Ma'isa Damim, very easy from here on, very easy. We had this a few times. Ma'isa Damim means Zrika, the dam, B'kochi kochim l'hakel ula hachmir. Or B'kochim kalim, here, same charge as yesterday, just nobody appreciated I did dark blue and light blue, so to make it, because this is kalim, you get it? It's lighter. It's gray. So kochim, there's Meilah up until the point is Zrika. So Meilah is bad. It's really bad for you if you do Meilah. And after Zrika becomes easy. So what is that called? A Kula. Kachim Kalim is the exact reverse. Up until Zrika, it's easy. If you use it, there's no Meilah. And from that point on, there is Meilah. So that's a Chumrah. Kachim, Lefnei Zrikas Damim, Moyalim, Beimurem. Remember this word, this Moyalim here, because the Gemara is going to use it later. If you have kachim before Zrika, there's Meilah in its meat, Beimurem, Ubabasar, in the whole entire animal. Lachas Zrikas Damim, but once you perform Zrika, Moyalim Beimurem, only the stuff that goes on the Mizbeach, the Imurim, remain Meilah, Beimoyalim Babasar, that would be a Kula. As we're going to see, both kachim, that's not what it means, but the imurim and the basar, there's pigul, noisar, tamei. In other words, there's a chumrah once I do zrika. Only after zrika do these chumras apply, right? Like we had yesterday. Zrika is what gives it a hechsher for pigul, for noisar, for tamei. I have a kula that it removes the Meilah, and I have a chumrah that it adds pigul noisatama. Over kachim kalim, kula lahachmir keitzad, and kachim kalim that starts out with a kula that there's no Meilah. So once I do zrika, kachim kalim from the zrikas damim me'imoylim loy be'mureim loy be'basar, lachas zrikas damim moylim be'mureim ve'imoylim be'basar, and once I do zrika, then there's Meilah on the murim. And again, so both kachim and kachim kalim, there's pigul noisatami. Minza ma'asedam v'kachim kalim kulam la'achmir. There's no kula at all when it comes to zrika by kachim kalim. It doesn't give you a kula because you start out with a kula, so you could only get worse from there. Says the Gemara, "Ktoni ein mo'elim bebasar." It was always bothering me this lashon, like through the Masechta. What does it mean ein mo'elim bebasar? Meaning, if there's no Meilah, what is it? Are you allowed to use it? You're not allowed to use it? What happens? It seems like it would be usher. Okay, so you're not over Meilah, you don't have to bring a carbon on Meilah, so you have to pay 25%, but you should stay away from it. It's actually the Kohen's property. Now, is it really the Kohen's property? Could a Kohen take that meat and marry a woman with it? Could he do business with it? No. He cannot. The Gemara doesn't mean literally it's the moment of the Kohen. The Gemara means the Kohen could eat it freely. He doesn't have to be concerned of an Isser here. So why is it mashma from the Mishnah that there's some sort of Isser? Like Kashia, Mishum de Nasav Reishim Meilah. Remember, I told you to remember that word. It says in the beginning of the Mishnah that by Kachim before Zrika, there's Meilah. So Meilah, Mishum de Nasav Reishim Meilah, Nasav Seva Meilah. Therefore, I just continue with the same lashon, even though it's not exact.
Don't be medayik that there's.
Don't be medayik and l'shoynes. It's just to be. What's the word I'm looking for? To. Okay, consistent is not a bad word. Maybe there's a better word. No, what's the better word? Anybody? Symmetric. Symmetric. I like that. That's better. You hear that, Noam? Symmetric. Don't eat those. Those are from Purim, from my house. Yeshua. Yeah. No, I didn't mean that they're stale. I meant you might get into that mood. So let's see if that fits into the Sefer. When it's kachim kalim before zrika, there's no iser mi'ila. The only thing in kachim kalim that you're not allowed to use is the murim. Ein moilim bebasar. There's no iser mi'ila bebasar mi'ilo deleko isur ika. You're telling me that after zrika, there's some sort of iser to eat the meat? This is really the owner's property. No, there is an iser. There is an iser here. One case, according to Rabbi Kiva, which we just learned, we're talking about a situation that the piece of meat went out to the Beis Hamikdash. You must burn that piece of meat. Rabbi Kiva says Zrika works. Yes, it works, but only to a point. It removes the Meilah, but it doesn't remove Avalachilu the Miratza. You're not allowed to eat the piece of meat. Avalachilu loy Miratza. You're not allowed to eat the piece of meat of Yotzei. Like you said in the beginning of this year, I asked this question: what happens to the piece of meat? You yourself, Noam, said l'sreifa, and that's all the Gemara is saying. The Mishnah is saying that by a piece of kachim kalim that went out, it says in the Mishnah, kachim kalim, there's no meila. Mashma, there is this, or yes. In a case where a piece of kachim kalim went outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you are not allowed to eat it because zrika worked to remove the me'ilah, but not the isra of achila. The isra of achila is still there. You must burn it. Hadron aloch kachim. Tomorrow we're going to have a little bit of a problem, but we're not going to have that. We'll just go to the Mishnah tomorrow on Daf Tes Bezer Hashem. So Meilah. Do we have a minyan?